Hi, and welcome to this talk of mine about some meaning, some technicalities, some definitions, some meaning, some technicalities, some definitions, some programming of mine, some of my programming in relation to some words, and the word is, in particular, the word should. I should be doing blah blah blah. I should be thinking. I should be doing should. Now, I remember very well when I was in school. I might have been 10 or 11 or 12 years old, and I would start to always ask question: how do you spell the word should? And I recall that I had difficulties remembering how to spell the word should. So, looking at the sounding of the word should, it sounds a bit like skuld, skuld, which means guilt in Norwegian. I mean, the word skull means guilt, skuld, shut, which means meat, shut, meat, skuld, and if you translate the word should to Norwegian, it means burde, which sounds like burden. So all these words is a very tight, knotted conspiracy within me of should and guilt and skuld and burden and being sort of in a sinful position, being wrong, sort of, being in a sinful position, being a victim. I should be doing that. Oh, I should be doing that. Oh, I burden myself with should be doing. I should be doing this. I burden myself, and burdening myself with this guilt, this skuld, this should. From my definition of these words, and I would make this into a belief, thinking I should be doing that because blah 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 blah, because and I should be making my life. I should be sinful. I should be bad, you might say. Looking at Beavis and Butthead and all this cultural influence and upbringing and all this. Action movies, you name it, and thinking that I should be doing opposite of good, and I should be living this. I should be guilty, sort of. I should be living in a world of guilt. I should be making myself into a position of feeling guilty, of feeling sinful, because then I can play on the polarity and feel superior from feeling guilty, like sinful, and just feeling bad for being bad, for being sort of a fuck up, being a sort of a sabotage, a uproar, like being in a position, being a rebellion, and being a rebellious character. Being a rebellious character was something I was ultimately striving for, being this rebellion, this conqueror of the system. So from this definition of should, skuld, burden, guilt, I would think this is how I must live. I must live to be this. I must live to be this. I would believe that my path, my should be I should be living into guilt, into sin, you might say. And unconsciously making this a belief that this was right for me to do. So, and to this day, to very recent, into this day, this old shadow of sin, of guilt, of burden, of skull, of should, of believing that it should be this, it should be such, it should be rebellion, should be wrong, should be believing itself to be, there should be a burden, there should be sinful, wrong, inferior, all of that. Thinking that I should be in a inferior opposition, an anger position, and a depressed, deprived, angry, sinful position. Thinking that I should be in emotion, thinking I should be in a depressed position. And till this day having this shadow chasing me with this belief, this idea that I should be doing something, I should be doing something based on this original definition of the word should, which is guilt and burden and meat and sin. So this is a very technical definition, how I made this word should into a very belief system, and how I've been attaching this belief system, this entity, to whatever I've been doing, and making it into that I should be doing this, I should be doing that, and sort of driving myself into that sinful position, that opposing position, that always being against something, instead of just embracing and being equal to, being soft, being, gentle, embracing, caring, accepting, including, merging, loving. So instead of being solution, instead of being equal and one solution, I would have this shadow chasing me, chasing my decisions, making my decisions very, very hard, making my decisions a living hell, actually, because they would, whenever I was to make a simple decision, and my old shadow would come chasing me with, you should be doing this because of that, because of such, because of guilt, because of burden, because of, you should be living your old, you should be doing that, you should be doing. And the word should sounds like scold and guilt, and just this deep feeling of I should be a person living in wrong, in sin, you might say. So having this voice, this shadow chasing me, telling me how to base my decision, how to base my decision on what I should be doing, when my definition of the word should is based on burden and guilt and scold and being wrong and being in the opposite of the opposite polarity, the negative polarity, you might say. And thinking that such a position is acceptable or a good position, or what was right for my belief. So this word should is opening up a little process here for me to walk to, let go of this idea or belief that I should be doing things based upon my definition of the word should, actually, and how that definition had been scold and guilt, and just always just victimizing myself, making myself into a victim, because I think that that is my position, that is how I must be. My position must be in guilt, in remorse, in fear, inferior, depressed, and so on, from this shadow chasing me, particular when I'm facing a question of decision, making a decision about something. So, starting this little process now with myself to work on the word should, to find out how I can dismantle this word, pick it apart, and see how I can work with this to redefine it and to more own and stand in my decisions. Stand in my decisions. And to be confident and assertive and certain with my decisions, with how I make decisions in my living, and to know when this shadow, this chaser, this shouter within me said, "You should be doing this because blah 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 blah. You shouldn't be doing that because blah blah blah." And I should, because I don't need to should anything, because how I have defined should is very deep, very deep programming within me of scold, guilt, and burden, and victimization and sinful. And I don't want to live in a victimized position. I've been living that for so long time. For very many years, I've been living with a victimized position, making my life difficult, making my life into a position of guilt, of burden, thinking that I have to have a burden, I have to have guilt, and making this into my living because of my believing that it should be like that. It's a very complicated conspiracy of thoughts and beliefs within me. So, today, standing here now, making the choice to stand in my decisions, to be in my deciding decisions, to decide for something, to evaluate and consider, but don't base my decision on what I should be doing, because my should is based on meat, very vaguely that, but skull, guilt, guilty of meat, all these things, guilt and burden and sinful, that I have to be sinful, I have to make my life sinful, always be inferior, beaten down, spiteful, aggressive position of rebellion, which is obviously not a solution, which is just waste of energy, which is just making things more complicated when things really are simple. So this is me making a stand to own my decisions, to learn to know what it is to make a decision, to redefine the word decision for myself, and to learn to know what it is to be confident, assertive, certain, standing, stable within my decision. So here, opening up the word should, these dimensions, these conspiracies of guilt and having to be in opposition, having to have a burden, having to have a burden, having to having to have a burden, having to have a guilt, a skull, instead of realizing that I'm just myself, I'm life, I am this body, I can just be, breathe, and live my life, and decide and be assertive within making decisions. And that is kind of a big job for me at the moment, but I will push myself to be this, to live this, to do this, and to work on this, so that I can have a better life with more confident, assertive decision making, confident, certain, assertive, and so on, stable in my living. So, yeah, thank you for that, and enjoy.